as intruders to be rejected. For a person weighing between 65 and 95 kilos, the following dosage shall be administered through the lymphatic system. First 3 weeks. The first day, an injection of 1/10 of a milliliter. The second day, 2/10 of a milliliter. Third day, 3/10 of a milliliter. Fourth day, 4/10 of a milliliter. The fifth day, 5/10 of a milliliter. From the 6th day to the 21st day, 5/10 of a milliliter daily. The fourth week, no injection. Second month, 1 injection of 5/10 of a milliliter 3 times a week. Third and fourth month, 1 injection of 5/10 of a milliliter twice a week. This product, the 714X, is non-toxic. It is absolutely innocuous. The FCK test. To permit early diagnosis during the treatment and to help the physician follow the 714X's activity, a test that we have called the FCK test is used in order to identify and quantitatively evaluate the co-carcinogenic K factor. This test will be called FCK test. In the event of a positive result, a differential test may be applied to determine whether the disease is cancer or another degenerative illness. We shall now pass from theory to reality as I draw your attention to the following films. These documents are based on samples of fresh blood. These samples were drawn from the fingertip, placed between lamellas, and examined within the 10 following minutes. We shall now study these documents together, and I will comment on them. These images show us blood samples taken from a healthy subject. Here we have red corpuscles that are optically void. On the upper right-hand side, we can see a white corpuscle. It is a polynuclear neutrophil. Notice in the background the small particles animated by a repellent movement. Here again, we can observe optically void red corpuscles. Here in the center, we have more polynuclear neutrophils animated by amoeba-like movements. Notice that it is dragging the Gumperk shadow behind it. Here again, you can see the same elements drawn from healthy subjects. These are white blood cells. In the center to the right, there is a polynuclear neutrophil, and to the left, here is an eosinophil. The thorny apple-like shapes we see are due to the dehydration of certain elements. A lymphocyte is visible in the center of this picture. May I attract your attention to all the highly mobile granulations in the plasma? These are somatids. Here again, we have somatids with a monocyte in the center. I would like you to examine the cytoplasm closely, as well as the cell's border with the mobile inclusions. As you may have noticed, the red corpuscles are still empty. Here, we have an eosinophil. Notice the pseudopod that it produces and the changes in size and shape of the nuclei. These pseudopods are used to absorb all the external particles. Please notice inside this red corpuscle these steady granules and these smaller ones that are moving. Here we have three of these elements. When you see these elements on a lamella, you can be sure of the diagnosis. You are dealing with precancerosis. This is how these elements develop. First, there is a bacterial growth localized in the erythrocytes. At the top, in this picture, you have all different forms of levurids. We have the same thing here in the red corpuscle on the left. In the two others, we have considerable development of the internal elements and a double bacterium. Here again, we have a chain forming. On the right and on the left also, we see links that are separating and freeing levurid forms into the environment, as I have already explained. Here we also can observe parasited red corpuscles. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 parasited corpuscles. We can see a double bacterial form in the middle. On the side, we also have a rod. Here we have a levurid that has grown into a star shape. Again, a levurid form has developed into a star shape, and we can also observe this at the top on the right. Let us examine this sequence carefully. Observe the proliferating red corpuscles. We shall break up the sequence to see what is happening. Different elements are being formed from this excrescence. Note how a bacterium form is developing from it and the two spores that are being cast out. Further on, we shall review this whole sequence in continuity. Notice the slow evolution, the development of bacterial forms. The development continues. Now we have a rod bacterium that is folding itself around the initial red corpuscle.
Qui vient se poser en écharpe sur le globule rouge initial. Toujours le même développement.
The same development finally condenses into another element that will proliferate later on.
Pour former un autre élément qui va proliférer par la suite. Vous allez voir maintenant en déroulement continu ce que ça donne.
Let us now draw our attention to these same events in a continuous sequence. Notice the bacterial formations,
La rétraction et la condensation dans le milieu.
the retraction and condensation in the medium. Here we have rod bacteria and double spore bacteria.
Des bâtonnets, vous avez forme bactérienne à double spore terminal.
In the center, we can observe passing levurid forms that were formed from the red corpuscles.
Qui étaient formés à partir des globules rouges. Remarquez toujours les somatides.
Please note the somatids. A levurid form has just passed in the medium. The corpuscle in the middle again shows another excrescence that is budding and discharging into the medium. Here we have undoubtable proof that these elements originate inside the red blood corpuscles. Notice the chains that are forming from the two corpuscles. Let us consider this chain closely. Can you make out the small granulations that progressively become bacterial in form? That then retract into a levurid form that already has a mobile centrosome, and that will evacuate into the plasma and initiate a whole new cycle. Do not forget to observe the somatids in the background. We also notice the passing levurids that have just been formed and a procession of double spore bacteria. We will now observe an experiment carried out with blood from a healthy subject. It has been washed and then heated. Actually, as you can see, the red corpuscles are optically empty. But watch the changes that take place as the temperature rises. At the top left-hand side, spiny apple-like shapes are appearing. This is due to the dehydration process, and a few granules are forming in the corpuscles. I can already see three, one on the right, one in the middle, and one at the top left-hand side. These granules appear as the heat rises, which proves that there is a liquid substance inside the corpuscle that can condense and form these granulations. This is an absolutely new and unheard of aspect of the question. Now we have again the same experiment with the washed blood placed in hypotonic medium. See, there are no somatids. Notice that little by little, a few somatids are developing. And as the hypotonic effect takes place, chains and internal granulation develop.
Au fur et à mesure de l'action de l'hypotonie, les chaînes, les granulations internes, tout le processus va recommencer.
The process repeats itself.
Une rétraction. Ensuite, nous avons fait la même expérimentation en milieu.
The next experiment has been carried out in a hypertonic medium with washed blood.
La formation de nombreuses somatides et d'inclusion.
We can observe more forms, chains, internal spores, and the external protuberances of the membrane.
Les formes chaînes, spores internes et prolifération externe de la membrane. Et la quantité de somatides
An incredible amount of somatids are being evacuated into the environment.
Toutes ces formes que nous
All these forms that are usually found in the blood of cancerous patients can be observed here after these experiments.
Après ces expérimentations. Ces chaînes,
The chain